Hello. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a Twitter education or science communication game that I've been running for 2 years now. Like Alex, it's coming up to my 2-year anniversary doing this in a few weeks. So I'm going to talk to you about Damn or Not, and if this works, I'm going to stand here. Great. So first, I'd like to know what is pictured here. Who has some ideas? Danny? No. Okay. I didn't planter here to answer that. But yes, it's a dam under construction. And the next question, where are we? And what recent news is there about this dam? Some clues. It's in Spanish, for example. Here gives you a few. No. Close. Nope. Colombia. Exactly. Well done. Good. We've gotten down to there. So we are at Ituango Dam. It's under construction, and if it is completed, it will be Colombia's largest dam. And it's recently been in the news. Recently, in the last few months, a construction tunnel collapsed, and floodwaters raced down the base of the construction of this dam, flooding local communities downstream. And it also has now triggered multiple landslides, and they're actually not sure exactly what's going to happen in this situation. It's being monitored very closely, and if it does burst and the dam completely fails, there are multiple communities downstream that will be impacted. So it's kind of watch this space. But these are the kind of topics that I talk about on Damn or Not. So it can be kind of challenging in some ways, but these are things that I research and that I try and talk to people about on a weekly basis. So Damn or Not is a weekly game that I run on the social media platform Twitter. And how do people engage with this? You can follow along on the hashtag. Just drop Damn or Not into your Google search. It will come up and you can participate. I share Damn or Not on Tuesdays at 2100 UK time at the moment, which is 10 p.m. here, or no, 10 p.m. Central European time. And the main idea is for people to identify infrastructure and potential impacts of those infrastructure on our freshwater ecosystems. So why do I care about that, or why should we also care about that? So my research over the last 8 years or so has focused on mapping and evaluating the impacts of dams. Not just dams, but also roads and the impacts of these on freshwater ecosystems. A lot of my time in my first postdoc was spent staring at Google Earth, but also getting that very unique opportunity of getting to comb through miles and kilometers of our landscape and seeing just how we have modified it. And I thought, well, maybe people are interested in knowing what I'm doing and what I'm looking at every day. So at the start of my last postdoc in France, I shared this image under a different hashtag and said, oh, what are we looking at here? Thinking this is a quite interesting one and trying to get people engaged. And so if you're interested in these kinds of topics, make sure you also visit the plenary on Friday, because Virgilio Hermoso, a colleague of mine, will be discussing more about the science behind freshwater ecosystems, their conservation, and also what's happening in terms of climate change and also energy development and things like dams. So make sure you attend that talk to get a bit more about the science behind these topics that I talk about on Damn or Not. So going back to what inspired Damn or Not, so I want to share about my research. I shared this tweet, and then someone, Taryn here, said, oh, actually this is really interesting. Why don't you think about sharing this image and giving people a little bit more time to think about it, something like Cougar or Not. So Cougar or Not's another game that goes on Twitter. People nodding their heads, yes, people love furry animals. So that's a very popular Twitter SciComm game that a lot of people follow. And I said, okay, well, I'll try it out. I wasn't fully convinced that people would think this was interesting, but I gave it a go. And so I started sharing Damn or Not, 2 Junes ago from an apartment in New Caledonia, sharing about dams with the world. Okay, so maybe you're wondering, what does a typical Damn or Not session look like? So there's a couple of different ways. So So the original way, I started just sharing images of satellite imagery. So I share a picture of, from Google Earth usually, of a landscape where usually there will be infrastructure, something like a dam or road. Sometimes I get a little bit sneaky and put things that aren't, you know, like a moon on Saturn, one of Saturn's moons. Yeah, it's random. But it's just to get people thinking into thinking about how we use these imagery to identify different things like dams and roads. Sometimes I'll also ask people to think about more on-ground images. So this is a roadway that I used to cross over very frequently during my field work in northern Australia. It used to completely flood every year from high water because it's a tropical region. But now they're building a bridge here to lift it up and allow the river to flow underneath. So I was asking people, well, what is this infrastructure and why should we care about it? And people actually engage with this. And then, of course, it's nice to fly around the world, look at remote imagery and satellite imagery, but it's also good to bring things home. So I also ask people sometimes to share images of infrastructure that's nearby to them. Did you cross over a bridge today? Take a picture of it and share it, and we'll talk about it on Dam or Not and what potential impacts that could have on freshwater ecosystems. Or where's a natural barrier in along your river? So where's there a waterfall or a riffle that could influence the movement of species? And we talk about that on Dam or Not as well. Okay, so there's these different ways that I share about infrastructure, and then I give people 30 minutes. It's not a lot of time, it gets a little chaotic, things get a little crazy, and people are tweeting back their responses to me using the hashtag Dam or Not, and really clever individuals, like this penguin, will tweet back marked up images and show exactly where they think the infrastructure are in the image that I shared. People also ask questions. We go into a bit of banter. It does usually also have a lot of humor involved. It's fairly light. And as Danny said, it usually involves quite a bit of discussion. So it's quite a good time, actually. And then after the 30 minutes, I share what I think the solution is. I don't always have the exact answer, and the crowd or those following do definitely find me or pull me up on things and say, oh, no, actually you missed this. So it's more of an interactive and kind of team experience, trying to understand what's going on in these landscapes. Okay, so people have asked, like, oh, well, today you've been asking, so how do you know this is working? Or like, what are you using to quantify this? Oh, I haven't really done much yet, but I guess after 2 years I'm starting to think maybe I should do something with all this data that I have. So participation definitely varies by week, and it's been kind of increasing over time. I can track this very easily with analytics on Twitter. So this is a graph that you can pull up and just see this is every Tuesday popping up on the graph, and I can see 22,000 impressions or something like that indicate people are participating in this. But I wanted to also highlight that I don't just do this on my own. It's kind of like build this team of people who are really engaged and passionate about this. And this is kind of the core team of people who are contributing every week. Some of these people even come with stories and ideas to share for each Dam or Not. Some of them run Dam or Not. The bobcat, for example, penguin, yes, it's great to have animals, really hard with flippers to type and operate mouse, but they managed to do it. Yeah, so it's, there's no I in Dam. This is a team effort. Yeah, so as I said, here's an example of when the bobcat ran Dam or Not for me because I was away for work one week. So it's not just a weekly game that people participate in. It's also starting to act as kind of a bookmark or a resource for people to share information. So you can see some examples here. Just being a little bit funny about a little dam that someone built in their waterway for helping with the water pump. And also, broader information about fish and those species that can be impacted by dams. So I started this because I was quite interested in growing other people's interests in this, and I talk to people about it all the time. I also draw fish. I'm wearing the fish that I draw, and I do that as a way to try and engage people about these things that I'm passionate with. So it's really great to get feedback like this, written above from John. But also, these Twitter science communication games have resulted also in broader reach. So we have popular science articles that have been written, so we're not just reaching out to those who engage through Twitter, but through broader audiences that are picking up papers or reading things on the internet and other mediums that aren't Twitter. And I think probably the most exciting for me is that this group of people, yes, the bobcat and the penguin, are actually people, I know, it's hard to believe, but they, this group of people are actually contributing to a citizen science project now, and we're mapping dams on large rivers around the world to improve the data set that currently exists and has a lot of gaps in it. And what's next for Damernet? So one is to try and integrate this into my research. I now have a fellowship. I'm going to have 2 new postdocs working for me. And I thought, well, it would also be great to get them involved and think about maybe developing a podcast. Someone else mentioned the benefits of this for like engaging students and postdocs in your lab. And also keep trying to inspire others. So Danny and I have done workshops together with encouraging people to communicate about their science and sharing with our experiences and stories. And also contributing to guides like the ones that BES prints every few years. And just one final plug, if you're interested in this type of thing, you're a researcher or you're interested in research that connects people and nature, there's a new journal from British Ecological Society, People in Nature. I'm an editor there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we'll also be present downstairs this evening. Thank you.